The contest of blades begins. The twin suns of Corvus burned high in the sky, casting golden light over the grand arena of blades. Thousands of aliens sat in the stadium, shouting, laughing, and placing bets. The contest of blades had begun, a HFY yearly event where the strongest warriors from every known species came to fight and prove their power. This was not a game. This was not sport. This was honor. And today, there was a surprise entry. A human. He walked slowly into the arena floor. No armor, no helmet, no energy sword, no plasma shield. Just a simple black outfit, soft boots, and two small wooden sticks connected by a thin metal chain. The crowd stared at him. And then, they laughed. Even the announcer's voice held mockery as it echoed across the arena. From Earth, the species of farmers and old myths, Warrior Cade enters the ring. With toys. Cade didn't react. He kept walking. Calm. Focused. His nunchucks hung at his side. Across the arena, a tall alien female stepped into the sun. Her name was Zelra of Varnak Prime, the undefeated, champion of the last 3 contests. She stood nearly 7 feet tall with silver skin, 4 glowing eyes, and full body armor made of star-forged steel. Each step she took made the ground thump. She pointed her long spear at Cade and smirked. "Do you plan to tickle me with those sticks, human?" she called out. "Should I send for a child's match instead?" Laughter exploded in the stands. Cade simply looked at her and said, "We'll see." In the VIP box above, the judges whispered among themselves. "Is this a joke?" one asked. "The humans sent him," another said. "With that? They're probably testing us. They're probably insane." Only one alien, an older historian, didn't speak. He stared at Cade's stance and narrowed his eyes. Back in the arena, the drums began to beat. Boom, boom, boom. The duel was about to start. A voice shouted across the arena, "Combatants, ready your weapons." Zelra spun her spear and slammed it into the ground. Cade bowed his head slightly, then lifted his nunchucks. The audience leaned forward. Some were smiling, most were mocking, but one thing was certain. No one expected what was about to happen. Begin. Zelra charged like a lightning storm, her spear aimed for Cade's chest. He didn't move. Not until the very last second. Whoosh. He slipped under her thrust, spinning sideways. Crack. His nunchuck slapped her ankle armor. Not enough to break it, but enough to make her step back in shock. Zelra grinned. Fast, but foolish. She swung her spear again. Cade dodged, ducked, and rolled. His movements were strange, fluid like a river, not stiff like trained soldiers. He didn't block. He danced. Crack! The nunchuck struck again, this time on her shoulder plate. A dent appeared. Now Zelra stopped grinning. She looked down. Then at Cade. "What did you do?" "Just warming up," he said. The crowd grew quieter. Some of the aliens leaned forward. Was that a dent? Did the toy just damage her armor? Zelra roared and attacked again, spinning fast, stabbing low, swinging high. But Cade was like smoke. His nunchucks flew in his hands, whirling faster and faster, making small clack, clack, clack sounds that echoed like thunder. Whip, left leg, snap, right arm, crack, neck plate, 3 hits, 3 weak points, 3 more dents. Zelra stumbled back. For the first time in years, she looked uncertain. Cade stood still, breathing slow, his weapon calm in his grip. "You still think they're toys?" he asked. She growled, "You're going to regret this." Cade's eyes narrowed. "No, but you might." In the crowd, silence began to grow. Whispers replaced the laughter. "Did you see that? His weapon isn't tech, it's art." "I thought humans were weak." The historian in the judge's box smiled faintly. "That's Earth style. Flow. Precision. Pain with purpose." As the round ended, Cade stepped back. Zelra stood with cracked armor, bruises forming under her skin and her pride shaken. But she still smiled. Differently now. Not in mockery. In respect. "Next round," she said. "I won't hold back." Cade. Spun his nunchucks once and nodded. Neither will I. Mockery and metal, the crowd was still buzzing. But something had changed. The laughter that once echoed around the arena was quieter now. The aliens who once mocked the human were leaning forward, watching, wondering. Cade stood silently, his nunchucks resting loosely in one hand. He didn't breathe heavy. He didn't show fear. Just calm. Still like a sleeping volcano. Across from him, Zelra paced like a cornered beast. Her armor was scratched and dented, shameful marks on what was once perfect star steel. Her jaw tightened with every step. The announcer's voice rang out again. Round 2 begins in 30 seconds. Zelra stopped pacing and stared at Cade. You fight like wind, she said. But wind cannot stop fire. Cade didn't answer. He just adjusted his grip. You think those spinning sticks make you strong? She continued. Your kind uses old tools from forgotten wars. We use weapons forged in stars. She raised her spear again and twisted a dial on the side. With a low hum, the blade crackled with electric energy. Now, she growled. Let's see how your wooden toy handles real power. The drums boomed again. Boom, 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 begin! Zelra dashed forward, faster this time. No more games. She came with full force, her spear humming like thunder as it sliced the air. Cade moved, but not away. He stepped closer. The spear shot forward. Cade ducked and twisted. The spear missed by inches, striking the stone floor and blasting sparks into the sky. Before she could pull back, crack! Cade's nunchucks whipped around and struck her gauntlet. A flash of pain hit her fingers and the weapon nearly slipped. First mistake, Cade said quietly. She snarled and spun, aiming a sweeping kick to his side. He blocked it with his forearm, but even that made him slide back. Second mistake, he said, grinning. Her eyes narrowed. I'm not done yet. She launched a spinning assault, blades, kicks, elbows. Every strike came with full strength. And still, Cade avoided them like he was dancing to a rhythm only he could hear. When she punched, he rolled. When she kicked, he ducked. And when she paused, snap. His nunchuck connected with her side plate. The armor split, exposing the layer underneath. Gasps rang through the crowd. Even the announcer was speechless. Cade stepped back again. Calm. Focused. You wear all that armor, he said softly. But it's only hiding your weakness, Zelra growled. No, it's protecting me from people like you. Cade shook his head. It's protecting you. From yourself. Those words hit deeper than any strike. She blinked. Just once. In that heartbeat, he moved. Clack, crack. 2. Strikes in perfect flow. Her shoulder plate broke loose. Her knee guard cracked in half. She dropped to one knee, panting. The crowd was no longer mocking. They were silent. Zelra looked up at the human. His shadow fell over her. Finish it, she said through gritted teeth, but Cade didn't raise his weapon. He stepped back instead. Get up, he said. You're not finished. Not yet. She looked confused. No one had ever spared her. Not in training. Not in war. You fight like you're proving something, Cade continued. But you already are something. She stood slowly. Her pride ached more than her bones. Why not end it? She asked. Cade looked her in the eyes. Because you're not my enemy. You're my lesson. The match buzzer rang. Round 2 over. The scoreboard lit up with the winner. Round 2, human victory. But the real victory wasn't in numbers. It was in the moment. Zelra looked at him, not with anger, but with respect. In the crowd, a child asked his father, What are those weapons called again? The father whispered, Nunchucks, and that human, he made them sing. The first crack in her armor. Zelra stood still as the medics tried to fix her armor. But her mind wasn't calm. She wasn't afraid of pain. She had lived through battles, explosions, and broken bones. She wasn't afraid of losing. She had never lost. No, what shook her now was something deeper. She had been mocked by a man who never raised his voice. She had been damaged by weapons that weren't made of steel or energy, but skill. And worst of all, she had been shown mercy. In the quiet of the ready room, she looked at her reflection in the polished surface of her broken gauntlet. A long crack ran across the center. Beneath the armor, her skin was bruised and sore. She clenched her fists. Who is this human? She thought. How can he fight with so little and strike with so much? The third round was coming, and she could feel it deep inside. If she didn't change her way of fighting, she'd lose everything. In the center of the arena, Cade was sitting cross-legged. His nunchucks rested on the floor in front of him. His eyes were closed. He breathed slowly. To the audience, he looked like he was meditating, but in truth, he was listening. To the arena, to the wind, to the sound of armor shifting in the chambers behind the wall. He could tell. Zelra wasn't backing down. She was coming harder. The announcer's voice cracked like thunder through the air. Final round, combatants enter. Zelra stepped out once more, but she had removed the heavier parts of her armor. No more chest plate, no more heavy boots. She wore flexible battlecloth and light shoulder guards. Now she moved faster. Smarter. Cade opened his eyes. He smiled, just slightly. You finally get it, he said. The match began. Zelra didn't charge. She circled. Cade mirrored her steps. This time the crowd didn't laugh. They leaned in, holding their breath. For 5 long seconds, no one moved. Then, Zelra attacked. Her strike was fast and clean, a perfect spin kick meant to catch Cade off guard. But he blocked it with his forearm, twisted under, and crack, landed a clean hit to her ribs. She grunted but didn't fall. She responded with a jab to his side, which he dodged barely. The two danced like fire and wind, unpredictable, but beautiful. Then it happened. A single move. A single slip. Zelra went for a feint, but Cade saw through it. His nunchuck spun through the air, the chain slicing the space between them, and wham! Her breastplate, already weakened, split completely and dropped to the floor in 2 pieces. The crowd gasped. So did Zelra. She stepped back, one hand on her chest, breathing heavily. She looked down at the shattered armor lying at her feet. It's all of it. The announcer didn't speak. The crowd didn't cheer. Everyone waited. Would she scream? Would she attack? Would she quit? Instead, she looked up and laughed. Not cruel laughter, not mocking, but real free. She shook her head and looked at Cade. I spent my life hiding behind metal, she said. You tore it away in minutes. Cade walked forward slowly, because I saw what was underneath. She tilted her head. What, do you see now? A warrior, he said, not a champion of armor, a fighter with heart. For the first time in her life, Zelra bowed, before the human, before the crowd, before herself. The arena erupted in cheers, not just for the winner, but for the moment, for the respect, for the lesson. Pain teaches respect. The air was heavy, but not with anger, not with rage, with realization. Zelra sat on the edge of the arena platform, her legs dangling over the cracked floor. Her chest was wrapped in light bandages where the armor had shattered, and small bruises marked her skin. She touched one near her ribs and winced slightly. Beside her, Cade stood silently. He wasn't gloating, he wasn't smiling. He simply watched the stars rising in the alien sky as if the fight hadn't just happened. She looked at him from the corner of her eye. You could have finished me, she said. I was open. I don't fight to destroy. Cade replied softly. I fight to teach. Those words sat in her chest heavier than any blow. All her life she'd been taught that pain was power, that you rise by crushing your enemy, that honor meant victory and weakness meant death. But Cade didn't fight like that. He used pain as a message, not punishment. His nunchucks didn't aim to kill. They aimed to awaken. Why did you stop? She asked again. Cade looked at her now. You needed to feel it, he said. The hits, the breaks, the failure. Because no one else ever let you. She frowned. You think I've never lost before? I think you've never been allowed to. Far from the arena, up in the VIP box, the judges still argued. He should have ended it, one growled. He humiliated her, another hissed. No, said the old historian, eyes gleaming. He freed her. Back on the arena floor, Zelra looked down at her bruises. I used to win before the first punch, she admitted. My armor scared them. My name made them kneel. No one made me earn my victories. She looked at Cade again. You made me fight like I never have before. And it hurt. Cade nodded. Growth always does. The sky was turning deep violet. Now, the stars of Corvus blinked above like tiny watching eyes. Around them, the arena staff began cleaning the wreckage. But Zelra didn't move. She sat still, thinking. And then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she asked, Would you teach me? Cade raised an eyebrow. Teach you? She looked down at her hands. Not just how to fight, but how to see. He understood. He gave a single nod. Later that night, in a quiet training ring behind the arena, Zelra stood again. No armor this time. No weapons. Just cloth clothes and bandaged fists. Cade tossed her a second pair of nunchucks. She caught them and nearly dropped them. They're lighter than I thought, she said. They don't need weight, Cade replied. Just rhythm. She took her stance. Cade moved beside her, slow, guiding, her arms, her shoulders. Start with flow, he said. Power comes later. She tried. She failed. She tried again. This time the movement was smoother. A small smile crept onto her face. In that moment, under the alien moons, the warrior who once mocked the human learned something her people had forgotten long ago. Pain is not the enemy. Ego is. And respect, when earned through pain, lasts forever. The fall of a champion. The training ring was silent. No crowds. No flashing lights. Just soft moonlight falling over two figures. Zelra's hands trembled as she lifted the nunchucks again. Her muscles ached. Her shoulders burned. Every part of her wanted to rest, but she refused to stop. Cade stood beside her, watching her movements. His arms were crossed, his eyes focused. Not on how fast she moved, but how true. You're still fighting too hard, he said quietly. I thought strength meant force, she answered, panting. Cade shook his head. True strength is knowing when not to strike. Those words landed like a final blow. Not to her body, but her pride. For years she had ruled the arena. Her name had meant fear. Her armor had meant power. But now, in simple clothes with no weapons, she felt something she'd never felt before: freedom. No expectations. No image to maintain. No armor to carry. Just herself. The next day, the judges called her back to the arena. A final exhibition match was requested. One last show for the crowds who wanted to see their fallen champion prove she still had pride. She stepped into the arena again, but not in armor, not with her spear. She wore simple training cloth and carried nothing but two wooden nunchucks. The crowd murmured. Some laughed. Some were confused. Some were silent, remembering what the human had done with the same toys. The announcer's voice echoed. Champion Zelra faces the runner-up of last year's tournament, General Croth of the Iron Scale. The crowd roared. Croth was massive. Covered in dark red armor, he wielded twin gravity blades that could crush stone. He sneered as he stepped forward. This is your return? He shouted. A child's weapon? No shield? No tech? Zelra raised the nunchucks calmly. I don't need armor anymore. The match began. Croth rushed forward, blades spinning. The crowd expected her to fall in seconds. But Zelra was different now. She didn't block his blade. She redirected it. She didn't fight with rage. She fought with rhythm. Clack! The nunchucks met his leg. Snap! Another hit struck his wrist. Whirl! She spun sideways, avoiding both blades with grace and speed. Croth stumbled. The crowd gasped. She was dancing, like the human. No. She was making the style her own. Blow by blow, she dismantled him. Not with brute force, with precision, with purpose, with peace in her eyes. When he finally fell to one knee, weaponless and shocked, Zelra stepped back. "I could finish you," she said, "but that's not why I'm here." Croth looked up, confused. "Then why?" She smiled faintly. "To show them," she whispered, turning to the crowd, "that a true champion knows when to rise and when to let go." The arena went silent. Then, cheers, wild, thunderous cheers. But not for the old Zelra, for the new one, for the one who fell and chose to become more. In the judge's box, one of the elders whispered, "The champion didn't fall. She rose higher." Later, as the arena cleared, Cade stood waiting in the hallway. She walked toward him, sweat still on her brow, the nunchucks hanging at her side. "Well?" she asked. Cade nodded. "You don't need me anymore." Zelra looked surprised. "You're leaving?" "No," he said. "I'm walking beside you now." And so the champion who once mocked the human now walked with him. Not behind, not ahead, together. The warrior's apology. The arena lights had dimmed. The roar of the crowd was gone. Only echoes remained. Zelra walked slowly through the quiet halls beneath the stadium. She was no longer wearing the cloth from the match, just a plain robe, the kind warriors wore when they had nothing left to prove. In her hands she still held the nunchucks, not tightly, not in fear, with care, like something sacred. She found Cade in the old maintenance bay, sitting on a metal crate, staring at an old holoscreen that barely worked. The screen flashed between two images, a star field and an Earth outpost destroyed by war. He didn't notice her at first. "You always come here after a fight?" she asked softly. He turned his head slowly, nodding. "It's quiet and real." She walked closer, sat across from him. They didn't speak for a long time, just sat in the silence they had both earned. Then she broke it. "I used to think strength was loud," she said. "Sharp armor, crushing hits, always shouting commands." She looked down at her bruised hands. "But when you hit me, you didn't just break my armor, you broke something inside me." Cade raised an eyebrow. "Is that your apology?" Go chuckled softly. "I've never apologized before. This is new territory." He smirked. "You're doing fine." She breathed deep and looked him in the eye. "I mocked you," she said. "I laughed at your weapon, your style, your calm." Her voice lowered. "But what I was really mocking was something I didn't understand, something I feared." He tilted his head slightly. "And what was that?" "Control," she said. "You had it. I didn't. You didn't need to prove anything, because you already knew who you were. I always needed the world to see me, just to believe I existed." Cade leaned back. He stayed quiet. Then, slowly, he said, "Do you know why I fight that way?" She shook her head. "I used to fight with rage," he said. "I lost people in the first contact wars. Good people, family, friends. I trained harder, got faster, killed better." He looked down at his hands. "And then one day, I didn't know who I was fighting for anymore. Just that I was fighting." He nodded at the nunchucks in her lap. "These taught me rhythm, patience, mercy. They saved me from myself." Zelra was silent. Then she whispered, "You didn't just fight me. I know. You healed me." He looked at her and replied simply, "You healed yourself." She gripped the nunchucks tighter. "Then let me repay you," she said, "not just with words." Cade raised an eyebrow. "How?" She stood. "There are thousands out there, warriors, hybrids, orphans, outcasts, trained like me, taught to destroy. I want to teach them something new." Her eyes burned bright. "Our way." Cade stood too. "I was hoping you'd say that." Together they walked out of the bay into the open night. No banners followed them, no cheering crowd, just stars and purpose. Some say strength comes from the weapon in your hand, but the greatest warriors know real strength begins the moment you lower your blade. Two warriors, one understanding. The sun rose gently over the red hills of Corvus, painting the sky in soft shades of gold and orange. The arena behind them stood quiet, still carrying the energy of battles long past. But today, no blood would be spilled, no armor would clash. Today was for building, not breaking. Cade stood at the edge of a training field carved into the earth. The stone was worn smooth, the ground flattened by footsteps from the past. Now it would be used again, but for something different. He looked around. Wooden poles had been set up. Practice weapons were placed in rows. A large banner hung above the entrance. It read in 3 languages, "The Path of Controlled Power." Beside him, Zelra walked slowly, watching the first group of students enter. There were dozens, young alien fighters, hybrids with missing limbs, outcasts from warrior clans, even a few humans, all drawn by the same thing: hope, and the story of a human who fought without hate, and a champion who chose to grow instead of destroy. "You sure they're ready?" Cade asked. Zelra nodded. "They're more ready than we ever were, because they came by choice." He smiled faintly. "I didn't think you'd stay after the tournament ended." "I didn't plan to," she said. "But then you gave me something no one else did." He turned to her. "What's that?" "Peace." The students gathered in a circle. Cade stepped forward. His voice was calm, but it carried. "We are not here to forget how to fight," he said. "We are here to remember why we fight." He held up his nunchucks. "This weapon is not about power. It's about rhythm, balance, and the decision to stop a strike, even when you can land it." He pointed to Zelra. She once defeated armies, but her greatest victory was over herself. Zelra stepped forward now, her voice stronger than ever before. "Armor is loud, rage is loud, but growth is quiet," she said, "and only the brave listen to it." She raised her own pair of nunchucks, sleek, polished, handcrafted. "I thought I was the best," she continued, "but I had never met someone who challenged my heart. Until I met him." Cade glanced at her, surprised. She looked back, smiling. "You taught me that a warrior isn't measured by what they break, but by what they protect." The students began to train, slow movements, careful swings, eyes focused not on the enemy, but on control. Cade and Zelra walked among them, adjusting stances, sharing small lessons. One student, a young alien girl with 6 arms, struggled to keep her movement smooth. Zelra gently guided her. "You're not too fast," she said. "You're just too afraid to slow down." The girl nodded, trying again, slower, steadier. Her stick spun beautifully. As the suns climbed higher, the field filled with the gentle clack of wood striking wood. No yelling, no pain, only learning, only growth. Later that evening, Cade and Zelra sat beneath a metal arch, watching the horizon glow orange and purple. The silence between them was peaceful now, not heavy, just full. "You ever think we'd end up here?" Zelra asked. "I thought I'd die in some forgotten pit," Cade answered. "Now, I'm building something." She looked at him. "We both are." He turned to her. "Partners?" She extended her hand. "Always." He took it. And just like that, the warrior who once mocked the human, and the human who fought with rhythm, became something greater. A legend. Together, the end.